I welcome you, distinguished speakers and all participants to this session of the World Forum Women in Science. And I will now give the floor to Professor Shalini Arya. Please start the session.
Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night. So we are from the different zones of the world, meeting here for a very, very exciting session called as Empowering Women in STEM. So I would like to say that empowering women in STEM is not just a buzzword. Inclusion is just not a buzzword, but it's the cornerstone of progress. And empowering women in STEM isn't just a choice, it's an imperative. So here, the amazing women here, Amal, Amin, and Nerina, whom I met in one of the international conference, and that's how I'm here to moderate this session as well as, give a talk on what are the different challenges that women face. So a quick introduction, a very, very quick one, since we have a limited time. So just in the morning, you heard about a Global Young Academy. I'm very proud that I am a member of Global Young Academy, became a member of 2018. So this Global Young Academy gave me wings and allowed me to network and broke several barriers and challenges that I was facing as a young scientist. So also then I was fortunate to join another academy called as the Indian National Young Academy of Science. Then I'm also associated with OWSD. I can see some of the speakers from that amazing organizations. And also then later on, after doing a lot of science outreach, I also became a part of focal person as a TWAS. I'm sure these are no more jargons or keywords for you. OWSD, TWAS, QIA, you must be, I'm sure, familiar with it. And then after joining this Global Young Academy, I got an opportunity to lead the Women in Science working group. And then I did several contributions to empower the women, conducted several capacity building trainings, workshops, and also became member of several committees, not just in India, but also at the international level. So science outreach and empowering women is what is near to my heart. But professionally, I'm a food technologist. So today I'm going to talk about what are the challenges that are faced by young women scientists, and in particular with the women in India. But after, we did one survey with Global Young Academy, which was an international, and we realized that these are the same challenges that are faced by young women scientists, so not just in India, but across the world. So the first challenge that we generally see are societal norms. Many countries, including ours, it is considered that the women are main caregiver and their job is to just, taking care of the children, marrying and taking care of the house. So because of that, many of the time it happens that marriage and family is only priority, and even the education is done at the preliminary levels, and then the women leave the career or they leave the education, and then they give the priority for marriage and family. And these are considered to be the traditional role where women is considered as main person to take care of the family. Most of the time it is a gender bias. There are several unequal opportunities. I have been part of several interview panels where, at the beginning, the hiring authority says that, hey, look, this particular job has a field work, and so therefore we would like to hire a male and we do not like to hire a female. So already there is a gender bias. It is thought that women cannot take this particular job. Also, there is, during career advancement also, when a woman undergoes through several, stages, like, for example, motherhood. So during that motherhood, she has to dedicate her time to family and children. But then during the career advancement or during the promotion, there are equal evaluations. So there is no consideration that a particular woman had a career break. So at least that is the situation in India. So either it is during promotion or neither the research opportunities are given. So there are biases considered that the woman will not be able to handle, a huge amount of grant, and therefore the grant is not given to the woman. Those are sad reality. And then work-life balance. As I said, the traditional role demands women's more time and patriarchy condition where maternity leaves are very limited. So recently there are rule regulation changes. So therefore, only few days are given for maternity leave, and you can understand the mother job is such a huge. So just 30 or 60 days are not enough immediately after giving birth to a child. Neither there are flexible work hours. So with Indian National Young Academy, we conducted a survey that why women, are not seen at the higher positions, or why there is, not more number of women. So it was observed that, mostly they have a career break due to childbirth and, pregnancy related issues, complications, health issues. So, and also flexible work hours were not able. So generally a mother feels guilty that because she thinks that her child is her first priority. So if there are no, hours given, so she thinks that, okay, I should leave the work, and my first priority is taking care of my child. So these, flexible work hours are not flexible. So she leave the work. Then there are several cases where resources are not available. For example, in my very own institute, and there are several institutions where creche facility was not there. So I always used to think that what should I do? Who will take care of my child? So there is always, behind the back of your mind, you are thinking about your child. So, so this reduces your, opportunity to perform, and, several other things. And also in women scientists, you see less availability of mentorships, and also, harassment and discrimination. This is very common in some of the countries, including mine, where sexual harassment committee, now government has taken a initiative where this committee is mandatory for every university, because it has been observed that the women faces the sexual harassment, gender bias discrimination, and also the work environment is not very safe for the women. So here, after 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. in the evening, it is not very safe to women or girls to go outside and work. So work environment makes a barrier. Also networking challenges. Generally, you see, women are not involved in a lot of networking, so they don't go and attend conferences. They don't travel. They think that, okay, there is a lot of things at my home. I need to take my care of my child, and that baby is very young. And likewise, there are several other barriers where a woman doesn't involve in a greater networking. So that's a networking challenge. Also societal norms, at least here the women are considered to take care of a child when the baby is very young. That woman is expected to give more time and not to travel anywhere. Also, it is necessary that institutional support policies are not very friendly, where women are encouraged. And even if you see at a very higher position, women are not given that managerial role or leadership role. So also a lower salary. So same type of job, but women gets lower salary and lower opportunity. No consideration of childcare. There are several international conferences where nowadays they are offering childcare grant, where child is allowed to travel along with the fellowship or money. So these were the problems, but what can be done further? Okay, so sustainable development goal, and this conference has a theme on one of the SDG, that is SDG 5, that is bringing equality, empowering women, and likewise. So this is a very, very great initiative that through these conferences we are giving an opportunity to bring gender equality. And I'm sure one day will come, the policies will change, and slowly the time is changing. Bringing equal opportunities while hiring, promotions, resource allocation, also providing a very good work environment where sexual harassment is prevented, or childcare or creche is provided, where women can bring along the child and, peacefully she can focus on work. Flexible working arrangement. If someday the child is very sick, the woman should be allowed to work from the home and, simultaneously take care of the child. So parental leave. So the job is not only belongs to mother, but, a father should be also given the parental leave. Okay, so childcare is not just woman job, but it is also a job of a father. Should provide several funding opportunity considering the women's role, and creating more opportunity. At least in India, the education for women is not free. So it should be made free so that more women should come forward. And of course, our government is taking now few steps where few fellowships have been created. A single girl child fellowship is also created. So there are some opportunities government is taking ahead a direction in this direction, and creating several networking and collaborative opportunity. Like in this conference, I remember for the first time when I met Amal in 2008 in Egypt, and she had invited, and I did not knew that time who is Amal Amin is a founder, member of World Forum for Women in Science, and that's how then I came to know about Global Young Academy. Then that's how I came to know about OWSD and TWAS, and then I got connected to GY, and then the world was limit, so I could meet there Nerina, who is also director of this conference. So they provided me several networking opportunities, as well as I am able to collaborate with other food technologists in this very organization. And it empowers you, it builds your capacity. And this organization has organized several capacity building workshop. Like for example, generally women do not know how to network, how to use this social media, or how to use this upcoming technologies. So they had provided several workshops through which we were empowered, and it's amazing to get connected with them. So if you are attending this conference or attending this session, I'm sure you are already empowered, and you will come to know more about opportunities during the several sessions. Also, as I was saying, women should be given free education, and senior and successful women should mentor other women. So I give the credit for um, for my success to Amal Amin, because in 2008 she introduced me and she encouraged me to join Global Young Academy. So she's a successful woman, but she did not keep her success with herself. She encouraged other women, and she's doing a great job through this such forums. So there should be more and more successful women and senior. They should act as a mentor to other women. And as I said, flexible work hour, special call for career break, because I saw the women when they take break in their career, be it for family health, be it for their children care, child care, whatever reason, but they take a break. So then when they come back after such a long gap, 2 years gap or 1 year gap, they are not connected, or they do not know what's happening in this technological world. So that time a special support should be created, where she should be provided with special contingency or a grant which can motivate her. So that happens. I've communicated with the women who had break in their career, and they lose their confidence because they think that, oh, 1 year, 2 year I was away from this academic or scientific community, what's happening. So there is a time for us to support and give a helping hand to such women. And mentoring, as I said, you will hear more about mentoring and networking opportunities. So I through such So finally, I would like to thank you, Global Young Academy, OWSD, TWAS, Amal, and Nerina for providing me excellent opportunity and allowing me to speak here. Thank you so much. I hope I'm within the time.
Yes, Shalini, you are perfect.
So thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to then proceed further with this session on empowering women in STEM. So we have amazing speakers lined up. And in this line, we have our first speaker, who was Professor Seema, but she had some problems. So Seema is not here, right? Seema is not here, but we will go ahead with our next speaker. And I invite Camila and Luis Bato. Camila is there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Professor Shalini, for introducing us.
Yes, so I would give a quick introduction about both of you, and you both come from University. Camila comes from political science at the University of São Paulo, Brazil, and her research involves dynamics around inclusive policies within scientific realm. Especially the focus is on motherhood related ones. And, she has been associated with several international organizations related to this topic. And especially she's a member of Public Policy Center. And she has received a Brazilian government grant also. And about Luis Bato, he's a PhD candidate at the University of Luxembourg, doing the thesis on parliament and science in the political redefinition. And both of them will speak on legitimacy of women's equitable policies in organization. A very, very interesting topic. And over to both of you.
So me and my colleague Louise, we're going to present our work. So Louise is sharing the presentation. So just before starting it, we'd just like to say, like, here we're talking about policies, just the way Shalini said at the end of her presentation, like what can be done. So we're going to go dig deep a little bit in the policies that are, at least on the surface, aimed at mitigating or supporting women through motherhood plans and mitigating whatever impacts we might have in our careers. But we're going to actually talk about the legitimacy of those equitable policies in organizations, specifically talking about the private sector, but also a little bit about the government in the case of France. And our cover slide was talking about like reducing women's risk sensitivity in the perception of balance between maternity and career. The potential of oxide cryopreservation, but the normal term we use is egg freezing. So basically, if you move to the next slide, Louise, please. I'm just going to introduce a little bit about what we talk about the impact of motherhood. So if you think about the discrepancies of like women's and men's careers, or in terms of like equality as in line with the SDG number 5 goal, we're talking about gender equality, more specifically the targets on ensuring 5.5, ensuring full participation in leadership and decision-making processes. So when you talk about the leadership, achieving a leadership position, we're talking about women's trajectory, women's journey throughout science, throughout like professional careers, throughout academia, or even through like an autonomous and self-employment one. So we understand that as a major obstacle, although I don't like to use the word obstacle, it is a major thing. It's like the motherhood or whatever reproductive plans we have. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you like a little bit of data to understand what is actually the impact of motherhood in women's careers. If you go to the next one, too. Here we're just showing you like the actual like lines in the chart about women in leadership positions, like especially like global CEO and industry leadership gender diversity benchmarks. So we can understand that there's a slow change in leading countries and institutions and firms that is reshaping society. So although we are in this, what we call the spring of women's rights, like in feminist movements, we're still like moving at ever slow pace. If you go to the next one, please, Louise. So if you think about like this is a division like demographics, like throughout like different countries and regions of the world, and we can talk about like maybe in Latin America, which I'm from Brazil, and we still occupy like just very like over a third of leadership positions, and we have as low as like 14% in Northern Africa, and we have 38% as the highest mark in Australia and New Zealand. So where we have like more advanced gender equality policy, but still like a very low proportion according to the women's proportion in society. Next one, please. So our focus is like Louise is talking from France, I'm talking from Brazil, although I'm at the moment in England doing an exchange program. We actually are very surprised with the similarity in data that we found between Brazil and France in women's representation in leadership positions. So we see that we still occupy 37% in Brazil, 40% in France. In terms of like company CEO, in Brazil, women are only 18%. And while in France, it's 17%. And then we have like a third very important trademark, which is the women in working in part-time positions, which is relevant to understand how we have to divide ourselves between reproductive work and productive work, which is the work that happens outside of the house. So it's the work that we actually get paid for, because we're still working when you go home, we're still working when you're looking after children or the maintenance of life. So we see like we don't have this data here, but women do work more part-time than men do, because men is like traditionally less allocated to do caregiving work or whatever reproductive work in the houses. And then another very similar point is the maternity leave policy. While we have 4 months in Brazil, like guaranteed full payment, in France they have like which is more common in European countries, which is like 4 months of maternity leave, and then you can extend this maternity leave up to a year, sometimes up to 3 years, as in the case of Germany, for instance, but with decrease in payments sometimes in the last year with no payment at all, which again like gives a very elitist character to the policy, because meaning like you need to be in a partner, you need to have like a steady income, or maybe like you need to be a very like comfortable financial situation in order to actually plan for having a baby or taking maternity leave, especially the extended ones. So if you go to the next one, here we're talking about like, well, as I said, like Shalini was talking about the marriage effect and actually motherhood effect. So we're just explaining that the motherhood effect, it has like a much sharp curve in terms of like how fast and how like cross-cutting it is throughout like women's careers. So if we're thinking in this chart, we're just showing that in terms of like effects when it goes to the portion of the GDP, most women are actually impacted by motherhood effects. So our careers change, our level of income change. Even though we're part of a family, we need to understand the individual like source of income that women have. That totally affects when a plan to have a baby comes to place. Now, Louise, please.
Yes, sorry. So now I'm going to present you quickly the legal and conceptual framework, because in order to approach the idea of mitigation between motherhood and career advancement.
Sorry, we cannot hear you properly. Sorry.
Oh, really? Well, I'm going to try without this. Just a little bit. Can you hear me well?
Now, much better.
Much better now?
Yes.
I'll say like this. So as I was explaining, I'm going to show you a little bit of the legal and conceptual framework we developed in order to assess the risk mitigation between motherhood and career advancements. So as Camila explained, we focus on Brazil and France, and we do focus on the process of egg freezing. What happened is that in Brazil, almost every processes of artificial reproductive techniques, which is the point in which egg freezing falls, is actually regulated by the resolution of the Federal Council of Medicine, which actually falls outside of the force of the law. Namely, the consequences it has is that it creates a legal vacuum in terms of egg freezing regulation, and it ends up with the possibility of corporate-sponsored egg freezing. Basically, if you heard about it, it's companies like Facebook, Apple, that pays their employee to freeze their egg in order to postpone their pregnancy and, with their hope, to advance their career more. In France, we have a total different paradigm at the basis, because we have a really high principle of non-commodification of the human body, and it results in in the prohibition of associating the cryopreservation of an oocyte with any part of financial incentives or corporate benefits. So policies, of corporate-sponsored egg freezing would be completely impossible in France. And with our new law of bioethics in 2021, we extend the access to egg freezing to all the women, including single women and women in a relationship with another woman. So there's really high differentiated legal framework, but the rationale between the development of those two legal framework is actually the same. They're presented in a way that want women to be empowered, but we will see that might not be the case in concrete. We base our research on a conceptual framework. I don't know if my slide, yes, okay. On the conceptual framework of risk society. So risk society is a theory that has been developed by Ulrich Beck in 1986. And these theoretical frameworks suppose that every individual is engaged in a rational assessment of risks or costs and their benefits when they construct their planification of life, whether it's motherhood in the case of women or career. And it has a lot of consequences in our situations because it created a delicate balance between career aspirations and motherhood. Why? Because in our neoliberal framework, usually organizations expect leaders to take risks or they reward risk takers. And taking risks in terms of career advancement means high dedication. So less time at home, less time in private activities, less time, obviously, into motherhood planification. In this perspective, then motherhood can constitute a risk for the career advancement. And conversely, the career can constitute a risk for motherhood planification. So there's many different point that can increase risk sensitivity when it comes to the differentiation between men and women. In the case of women, those points that you can see on the screen are points that increase the risk sensitivity of women because, for instance, perceptions of competence, there's many studies that shows that the women tend to decrease their competencies with regard to men with the basic same degrees, for instance, because of the socialization, the way women and men are educated has an impact on the way women are able to take risk when it comes especially to the career. And the point which is really important for us today is the family and caregiving responsibilities. Because as Camila explained, and as our colleague previously explained, women tend to have a lot more caregiving responsibility when it comes to the house, to the family. And obviously, such a context make them more risk sensitive. In this perception, and our colleague previously talked about it, so I am not going to develop all those points, but these are the points that can help women mitigate the risks between motherhood and career advancement. And in our research, what we are asking is, does the artificial reproductive techniques, which constitute egg freezing, not only, but egg freezing is part of it, can it be seen as a policy that can mitigate risks, that can help women to reduce risks? Because basically when the company or when the government passes such a kind of a policy, it passes saying that it's a policy that will help women to be empowered. So this is their narrative, but is it concretely possible? Just to explain concretely what we are talking about when we say oocyte cryopreservation. So this is the technical term, but we could say as well egg freezing. It's just a process to take the egg outside of the body and to freeze it. So you can do it just for donation. You can do it for an artificial reproductive techniques as well to preserve your fertility. And there's two different specific case scenario. The medical aspect or the non-medical aspects, also called social and elective. And in our research, since we are talking about the possibility to freeze your egg with the objective to increase your career advancement, then we are focusing on the non-medical preservation. And this process has already been studied by the literature and by some scholars. And apparently they advanced the idea that such a process could help women to equilibrate the complexities between career advancement and family planning, because it helped them to delay their pregnancy And therefore, because the pregnancy is delayed, they can increase their career advancement. And we will see that it might not be the case. Oh, sorry, it was for you, Camilla.
Yeah, you can move next. I think I'm gonna, because I have like only a few minutes, I'm just gonna explain like what we actually mean by this. So when talking about like supporting women to be mothers while you're being professionals, we are talking about supporting motherhood. So what do we understand? I think like me, myself, I have 2 children. They are 3 and 5. I would love to have daycare. Daycare that's actually like, that actually dialogues with the working hours, not the daycare that we have now. Like my children go to school until 3:15. And we have to work until 6 or 7. So this is some sort of policies that would actually support me. What we are talking about here is the possibility of having your eggs freeze, so you can postpone your pregnancy, so you can work harder now when you're young and healthy, and then later on maybe think about having a baby. So what the companies are doing, they're not really supporting policy, and that's exactly what we're talking about, legitimacy. And this is talking about like transparency, information communication, in terms of like the effectiveness of these processes, because sometimes women do freeze their eggs for, let's say, 5, 8 or 10 years. The eggs are not really like fertile anymore, or they're not able to, might not be used in the exact medical terms, but they're not be able to be to have babies later on. So they kind of give you a fake guarantee that you can postpone your plans, but you can't really. And then what we're actually arguing is that the companies, they are using a utilitarian goal, looking for to maximize profits, to actually keep on like making you work as much as you can when you're young, and not really caring about reproductive plans of women. If you go to the next slide, just basically the assessment we are doing in terms of like societal norms, values, and beliefs. So when they're talking about empowerment, it's not really empowerment, because here we're talking about the influence in women's choice. So if we were free to decide when to have baby, how many to have babies, and how many babies, or in terms of like moments in life, we wouldn't really make the choices we are making. So if you could advance the slides, please. Here we're just showing some data, how like it's not really efficient, the efficacy of the processes. So sometimes you freeze your eggs and then give you this guarantee, but you might not even succeed in actually getting pregnant later on. And then you can just move a couple of slides later, Louise. Yeah, another one. And here we're talking about the actual policies. So in Brazil, we're looking at private sector. We're obviously talking about really privileged women, because they're not going to do such an expensive like benefit or like an employee perk to someone in the bottom layer of the work pyramid. So we're talking about women actually reaching leadership. This is how we actually argue. So what they talk about, increased reproductive autonomy, which is also is a fake outcome, because you understand that later on you might not succeed. But you do increase the professional availability, of course, because you don't have children. So you're there free to like deliver yourself to your work. While the company is looking to personal retention, because when they actually sponsor you to do such an expensive treatment, they actually retain you in the company for many years. So you actually have to stay there, and then not actually have like autonomy to change jobs, or maybe to have a different career path, and the dependency on the industrial influence. So in this sense, we are again talking about the neoliberal framework that decides on how women's careers, for personal lives too, in reproductive plans, are going to move forwards. In France, it's a little different, because it's like more connected to the government. So, but we do have similarities in terms of professional availability, but we have a different structure in terms of pressure, because the conservation is not funded and is not as socially accepted as it is in Brazil, at least from our preliminary findings. So now Louise is going to conclude, and we are open to discuss more in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to conclude really quickly, just to show the conclusion of our research. I won't go to each point. So basically, what is the most interesting in our research is that the legitimacy. How do you assess the legitimacy of a point? When this policy is presented as women empowerment, well, it seems good, but in the reality, it seems that it increases risk on women, because specifically of this lack of information regarding the process. Women are not really aware of what it's presented to them, sorry. And it has a lot of interrelated fields, because if egg freezing is presented as the only option for women to advance their career, it doesn't make any sense, because the moment they will be mother, then it won't have any other policies to support their motherhood. Then in our research, we will have two subsequent phases. The first one is the data collections, so the quantitative part. And then the second phase is the qualitative material. We will have to look at the motivation, the deep motivation of each organization, because our hypothesis is that the motivation of the organization, whether it's private or public, it's purely utilitarian, namely whether it's for increasing growth or to align with normative framework, which is whether at the regional or international level. So there it is. We are arguing that such policies presented as women empowering are actually made in a utilitarian purposes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Camila, and thank you, Luis. And I'm sure there are questions. I myself would like to ask questions, but after the sessions, thank you so much for your insightful and thought-provoking, sessions. So this is much needed in the current times, and this, bombardment of topics again and again relate, and that will make the change in the policies. So much needed topic. Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. And I request the audiences to put the questions for the speaker in question and answer session. We will take those questions later on, but you can post your questions. So we will continue with our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Fernanda Maria, and she is from Federal University of São João del Rei, Brazil, Minas Gerais, Brazil. And Professor Fernanda has 11 patent applications submitted, and 3 out of them have already granted. Wow, that's a lot. And she has published 9 books, authored 16 scientific articles, and more than 40 book chapters. So basically, Professor Fernanda has dedicated herself in promoting science. Especially, she's very active in the advocacy group that support the women in science, and that's how she's here in this amazing session. And she has been recognized with several awards. Just a few, name few, such as Women in Science Brazil, which was awarded by L'Oréal Brazil UNESCO in Brazil. Also, Brazilian Academy of Sciences, under 30 Brazil Forbes, and various other certificates of merits have been awarded to Dr. Fernanda. So we are very, very lucky and fortunate to have Professor Fernanda here to present your talk on Brazilian women in science, gender gap scenario, and strategies to fight. And over to you, Professor Fernanda. And I request you to complete your presentation in just 12 minutes, if possible.
Thank you, Professor Lia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So good morning, Brazil. Good afternoon in Italy. My name is Fernanda Tonelli. I'm a professor at Federal University of São João del Rei. And as Professor Lia has said, I'm going to discuss here today with you a little bit about Brazilian women and science. I will address some gender gap scenarios and also strategies to fight the underrepresentation. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for this opportunity. And before starting, I would like to say that this presentation was built based on some statistics from the Brazilian National Council for Scientific and Technological Development, that we call CNPq. So the point of view adopted to address gender will be a binary one.
Fernanda, Professor Tonelli, only a point, your camera is turned off. I don't know if you want to have it in this way, but if you want us to see you, it would be great if you turn on your camera.
I believe I can't because I'm using the tablet.
Oh, perfect. It's fine. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
But if you can open, but I believe we won't be able to open.
No problem. No problem at all.
Thank you. So let's start analyzing some aspects regarding the history of women in science in Brazil. Just to reach the basis of the scientific career progression, that is undergraduation, women had to fight a lot in Brazil for rights, because only in 1827 they were allowed to access education beyond primary school. And only in 1879 they were able to access higher education. So if we imagine the scientific career progression as a staircase, we can go from the basis, that is undergraduation, to the top in Brazil, that is considered the researchers that receive research productivity fellowship from the National Council. And I'll show you some data regarding the census performed by the National Council from 2013 to 2017. And it will display female participation from the basis to the top of this staircase. So to start, we will analyze undergraduation scenario. Women were 57% of undergraduate students in Brazil. So we are starting to discuss this gender gap scenario from a position of majority. However, if we go to the next stage, that would be those students who demonstrated interest in following a career in science, participating in scientific initiation program. These numbers start to diminish. So we go from 57% to 55% of women. Then the next step would be the students pursuing master's degree. 52% of them were women. And then we reach the students pursuing PhD. That is an ideal scenario in which men and women were each 50% of those students. This is an ideal scenario if we consider the Sustainable Development Goals, in which number 5 is gender equality. So to reach gender equality in society, we also need to reach gender equality in science, because science influences society and vice versa. After getting the PhD in Brazil, if a person wants to continue to develop a career in science, he or she will need to take part in a contest to become a researcher and professor, or a researcher in universities and research institutes in the country. That is because more than 90% of the science in Brazil is sponsored by the government using the money from taxes. So as the next step, we can analyze, for example, research group leaders in Brazil, and women were 47% of them. So if you notice, we started in a position of majority, we reach a scenario of equality, and now we are in a scenario of minority, going from the basis to the top of the scientific career. We can also analyze university professors, and a similar number we'll find here. 46% of them were women. In Brazil, if a scientist has an outstanding productivity, he or she receives from the National Council a fellowship that we call Research Productivity Fellowship. Among them, women were only 36%. We can compare this data I have previously presented with the more recent census from the National Council that was released in 2022. So if we compare this old data with the new one, we can see that women were able to increase their presence in national science among the students pursuing master's degree and PhD. However, at the higher levels, like becoming university professor and research productivity fellowship, the participation, the female participation has decreased. So all the strategies that were adopted in Brazil from 2017 to 2022 to increase women participation in science were not effective to deal with the first gender gap I'm presenting today. There is a gender gap in the higher levels of the scientific career. This evasion of women from scientific careers, when we analyze from the basis to the top of the career, is known as scissor effect. The second gap scenario I will present is a famous one that's regarding STEM areas. So in STEM areas that involve science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, this scissor effect is more concerning. If we analyze again the data from the census of National Council from 2022, but now looking at different areas of knowledge, we are seeing here some non-STEM areas presented in shades of green, and in other colors we can see STEM areas. And we noticed that going from pursuing a master's degree to becoming an university professor is a path that is more difficult for women to follow if they are working in STEM areas. So it's important to reflect on the main factors responsible for these scenarios of underrepresentation that I've presented so far. They are prejudice, harassment, pregnancy, and motherhood. So the next question, an important one, would be what is necessary to fight this underrepresentation? And what's necessary is transformation in society, aiming at democratic state and social justice. Professor Nancy Fraser has made reflection regarding both aspects, and she recognizes that in order to have a democratic state with social justice, three main elements are necessary, and I'll talk a little bit about each of them. The first one would be recognition. It's crucial to recognize that this difference exists among individuals that are part of a society. The second aspect is representation. All these individuals need to have the right to talk, presenting their ideas, and to be heard in society. And the third one would be distribution. Investments, opportunities, they have to reach all those individuals to assist them in their needs. So, gender equality is far from being just a problem of mathematics. We can solve, for example, the problem that I've showed you that exists in Brazil, increasing the number of women receiving productivity fellowship only. Because if they are working in a hostile environment, undergoing harassment, suffering prejudice, suffering negative impacts on their career, due to the lack of support associated with motherhood, probably those women would continue to drop the scientific career. Fortunately, in Brazil, we have a lot of strategies to fight women underrepresentation in science. However, due to the limited time, I will present only two to you today. And I've chosen to talk about a project from a federal university and a law. So we will address, first of all, a project from Federal Tecnológico University of Paraná. Paraná is a state in Brazil, and in this project, teachers, they use human history to teach science to children. They believe that offering inclusive education helps in the fight against prejudice and sexism. And the second one is Law 13,536 from 2017. This law is an important achievement for pregnant postgraduate students that receive a scholarship because they have acquired the right to an 120-day leave due to maternity or adoption. The scholarship is extended for this period, allowing the women to suspend the activities associated with science to take care of the child. These are some of the reflections and strategies discussed in an article that I have written with Dr. Naomi Martins, which was recently published in Brazil. Those who want to read the manuscript are invited to do so. It's written in Portuguese, but you can access it through using the QR code that is now on screen. And I would like to conclude thanking once more the organizing committee. Thank you all for your attention. And I conclude this presentation with a quote from Marie Curie that says that we cannot hope to build a better world without improving the individuals. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Fernanda. I would say muito obrigada. Muito obrigado. We're truly grateful for your expertise and the valuable insights that you shared, especially for the bringing out the very important topic on gender gap scenario and strategies to combat underrepresentation in Brazil. But I'm sure the strategies that you presented are applicable for other countries as well. So thank you very much. And we have questions. We'll take them later on since we are running out of time. We will move ahead to the next speaker. And we have our next speaker is Dr. Clancy Bonilla. I'm sorry if I do not pronounce it properly, but I'm so happy to read your biography. And you come.
I wonder if it's me, but the sound got frozen.
Yeah, I believe the internet from Professor Araya It's not working well.
Yes, Mr. Shalini is not here anymore. She's connecting again. I think we can proceed with the next presentations. Yes, so I'll give the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. I know we're running against time, and I appreciate the presentation. And the 15 minutes I will be given. My name is Glacy Bonilla. I'm Guatemalan. It's a long story, but I've had the opportunity to live in many countries in Latin America. In Brazil, I spent 3 years, in 4, and also in Chile. I have very close relations with Ecuador and, of course, all Central American countries. And I say this because today I will take these 10 minutes to present the role of OST, the Organization of Women in Science for the Developing World, in connecting, in networking 2,000 members of our countries, regional, Latin America and the Caribbean. In the context of the global membership, we are 10,000 altogether. And I'm currently based in Oslo, but I continue engaged with Latin America because, as I said, not only because I'm national, but all my research is also focused in my region. So just to give you an introduction, what is OST? OST, as a global organization, is a program that was founded 30 years ago. And it was an initiative in collaboration with the TWAS and also with UNESCO. And it has 4 regions. We have Africa, our countries, Asia Pacific, and Latin America, the Caribbean, the region that I represented, the region in the global executive board. We have a president of the executive board, Dr. Jennifer Thompson. We have a coordinator, Tonia Blowers. And of course, there is a staff located in Italy, in Trieste, that help us, all national chapters. We are 54 national chapters, which means communities in all of these countries. Again, let me emphasize, developing country, developing world, because we do have common challenges with women in science across the globe, but there are particular challenges that we face in the developing world. Again, we are 10,000 members plus. We just came over that number. Membership is free of charge. We don't pay, and it's a very inclusive belonging. So next slide is just for you to know that we have representation from all the regions. 2 chairs, 2 seats in the table in the executive board. And we have, of course, a similar figure for these other 3 regions. But in my case, we are 2 members who represent for the period 2021 and 2025, myself, from Guatemala, as I mentioned, but now representing the whole region. And my colleague, Patricia Castillo Briceño, she's Ecuadorian, but she's representative also from the region. Very quickly, we have about 24 countries, but if you see the slide from 1 to 16, is the established national chapters, which have gone through the process of having a host institution. We are not an NGO. We operate locally through our host institutions. Some of the national chapters operate through the National Academies of Science. That is the case of Guatemala and Brazil, for example. And other national communities operate locally through universities. That's the case of Colombia, for example, and from El Salvador, Nicaragua, and other national communities operate through organizations of civil society. That's the case of Mexico and Ecuador, for example. We're very happy to support and collaborate with our fellows from the Caribbean. In this case, we have Haiti. So from 1 to 16, you see the established national chapters. In blue, 17 and 18, you see Panama and Costa Rica. They are very close to become a national chapter. And there are 2 main conditions to have plus 20 memberships. We have way more than 20 in all the national chapters established. Guatemala is the biggest and most robust chapter with 480 members. And we have smaller chapters that are growing slowly. And then you have other countries which are also in the process of becoming a national chapter. So here, just a few numbers of how we exist as Latin American region. We represent 20% of the global membership and 30% of the established national chapters. A few other numbers, because we do have particular programs, awards to increase visibility of women in science in our region. And it's represented by the Elsevier Foundation host award every year. We have early career grants, and also we have a PhD fellowship, and that's how we operate. So I'm gonna just leave you with this slide. This slide is very meaningful because you can see here the logos of each of the national chapters, the 16 that are already established. I'm very happy to see with me Professor Fernanda, and I invite you to join the Brazilian chapter, which is related or hosted in the case of Brazil by the Brazil Academy of Science and all the friends and colleagues who are in the audience. Find your community, if it's in Africa, if it's in Asia Pacific, if it's in the Arab countries, and of course in my loved region, Latin America and the Caribbean. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll have my email address, and any question that you want to explore more about Latin American representation, I'm here. Thank you. I stop sharing. And yes. I don't know if, yes, Professor Shalini is back.
I have some video issue, but no problem. Your presentation is within the time, and we could save the time. Thank you so much, Dr. Clancy. And I think now the platform is open for the questions and answer, and we will begin from the first session. And we have the questions. I think Seema is here. We can have the presentation for Seema. Nerina, is Seema
here? Hi, no, Simon, she's not here, but I can share perhaps shortly a presentation. What do you think, Shalini?
Since she's not there, somebody needs to be presenting her topic. I really don't know. I think
I will share. I will share the presentation. Give me a second. Can you see a presentation?
Yes, I can see very well.
Shalini, do you want to share some words about?
Seema, I would like to say a few words about Seema. Seema is a very good friend of mine, and I met her in Rio de Janeiro. We had really great time together. And today, because you are aware about the war going on in Iran, Seema Fakhrain, who was supposed to talk on gender gap in editorial boards of scientific journals, couldn't make it out because of the internet issue. So Seema is an associate professor at the university. She is a visiting professor at the University of British Columbia, Canada, and currently she's associated with Isfahan University of Technology, Iran. So I had a great experience working with Seema because her expertise and a different area in which she's working. So International Association for Landscape Ecology, so ecology, and also she has a designation.
Shalini,
yes.
Shalini, sometimes we cannot hear you. Can you please be a little bit closer to the micro? Sorry.
Okay. So yes. So she was supposed to speak on gender gap in editorial boards of scientific journal, and she couldn't make it out for today's session. So Nerina, can you go to the next slide? And it would have been amazing, to hear from Seema on this topic, gender gap. So I really don't know what to speak, but since she had an expertise and she was about to bring the editorial board, gender gap. So Nerina.
Yes, I can read shortly, show you shortly the presentation.
Yes.
As gender equality is one of the 17 goals set out in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Although there has been a continuous increase in the number of women working in the STEM, women rarely reach the highest academic position as full professor or editorial board members. The leaky pipeline, you know about this, the leaky pipeline metaphor describes the way in which women become underrepresented minorities in science. And this is a word atlas of the difference between bachelor, master, PhD, and researchers, between men and women. You know, we start pretty equally, but then there is a decrease. And is there gender equality in scientific research? UNESCO showed that although the number of women in scientific research has risen to 1 in 3, they remain a minority in mathematics, computer science, engineering, and artificial intelligence. Women are disadvantaged across all stages of academic publishing in science, contribution to editorial boards of journals in evidence of high reputation within a specific speciality or field. Therefore, the low presence of women on the editorial boards can be considered a disadvantage indicator for women in academia. This study aims to highlight the gap in women's contribution in land science journal. A systematic literary review, this study aims to highlight the gap in women's contribution in 60 selected land science journal. And the result is that you know, there are 25% of female and 75% of male. Women contribution to the editorial board of land science peer-reviewed journals is an example. The results show that the current number of editorial board members is 5,187, of which only 25% are women. Gender inequality is very evident in this group of journals to the extent that journals with a high impact factor indicate inequality that is even more than 75%. The geographical distribution of the editorial board members is also quite unequal in the North and South. 83% of female editorial board members are from North countries, while only 12% are from the Global South. According to the result, there is still a long way to go to achieve gender equality, especially in the field of land science. The number of journal editorial boards by affiliated country, you see the difference. Conclusion, our study provides a comprehensive analysis of gender bias in editorial position in land science journal. Our results show a strong gender bias against female editors. A journal institution need to support the best science and remove barriers that can impede it, such as gender differences and biases that can affect research finding. Without more women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the world will continue to be designed by and for men, and the potential of girls and women will remain untapped. Network is an important aspect for achieving gender equality. Yes, many thank Women in Science Without Border and Traces&Dreams. And we think of her who were not able to join us today. And now Shalini, would you like to introduce the last speakers? Professor Baba Lola.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think we have now no more speaker next, right?
No, we have one more speaker.
Oh, yes, we have one more speaker for the day, and that will be because in the program, yeah, because in the program there are only 4 speakers.
Yes, this professor, she didn't want to, she couldn't join us, but now we were able to, so that, do you want me to spend a couple of work on?
Yes, that would be nice because I don't have biography. Please, Nirina.
Oh, sorry, Shalini.
I don't have her biography. Could you please go ahead with her introduction?
1 second, I'm looking also for. So Professor Babalola is a science advocate, a STEM enthusiast, the vice president of OVSD. He is also the vice president of TAS Africa region. She is a rated scientist with an MBA, sits on several editorial boards, and acts as an international advisor to a few others. Her effort has received many awards, including being the finalist in Gender Insight 2020 and Clairvite highly cited research top 1% for the field years 2022 and 2023. She has years of experience focusing on rhizospheres genomics. A recent spring book is Food Security and Safety, Africa's Perspective. She is top #1 in Africa for soil science and plant nutrition. She's passionate about science education, diplomacy, public engagement, policy and capacity building, and has completed the supervision of 35 doctoral fellows, 24 masters, and numerous honors students. She's a prolific author with over 350 publications and more than 90,000 citations. I think that we do not need more to add more. And she's one of the people in the south part of the world that is doing even being part of this editorial board, what we have just heard. Thank you so much, and please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I will not waste time. I'm Olubukola Babalola, and today I'll be speaking on Africa women's leadership and STEM success has been introduced. Coordinating whole Africa and the World Academy of Science as well. I seem not to be able to move the slide. Yeah, thank you. There is a need for African women leadership in science, in technology, in engineering and mathematics. And that we all know. But the current important need is that the women will arise. And by that, I mean looking beyond what we commonly call the glass ceiling. We already know that we can't afford to sit there. So we find that there is a need for the African women in STEM to arise up to the challenge that we are all aware of. And today I'll be illustrating some of the obstacles that we found in a real-life study among leaders. In the methodology, we use the online open-ended question, and we try to seek narratives from leaders in STEM. We also collected data from non-probability and proposal samples of African women in STEM. The samples were collected from West Africa, East Africa, North Africa, and Southern Africa. And we deal with people in research institutes. So you know we are dealing with the creme de la creme, people with understanding. The participants occupied leadership position in their various organizations, ranging from position as a director, as dean, as a principal officer. And we were able to acquire data from 42 women participants. These 42 women came from 12 African countries, and their narratives were analyzed. It was observed that the country from which the data came are the ones shown on the screen: Kenya, Rwanda, Sudan, Uganda, Egypt, Malawi, Lesotho, South Africa, Benin, Cameroon, Ghana, and Nigeria. And the various number of respondents from those different countries has depicted. And what were the research findings? The research findings that we observed, and which I will be very happy if women will pick up as something to build upon, because we can leverage whatsoever seem to be her obstacles to now be her success. We observe that scholarship is important in helping women to be up there, at least from the observation down, from the data that we collected. So we say that these women, a number of them have enjoyed opportunity of overseas studies or exchange programs, and that gave them an upper hand against their the other common ones in their upper hand against every other person with which they are mingling. We also see the importance of personal efforts. We'll see aspects of hard working, aspect of tenacity, aspect of commitment. These ones cannot be underrated if we want to share success stories in STEM. So the aspect of organizational structure is paramount. A number of the respondents said the organization has set up a promotion strategy, which if you meet it, whether you're a man or a woman, you will be promoted. And a number did mention the aspect of being elected or nominated. So I'll encourage us to nominate fellow women when we have opportunity to nominate. Then a number mentioned it's because the virtue of the work that they find themselves doing that really give them the upper hand in the society. The academic institutions people also mentioned that whether you are a man or a woman, if you follow the criteria that is set up in the organization, the structure is that you will be able to reach whatever pinnacle you want to reach in your career. And others mentioned the aspect of appointments and positions that were advertised from which this took up. Very few mentioned the aspect of lobbying and recommendation. They mentioned that they lobbied their way to where they were. And also, some said that it was because an individual of timber and caliber recommended them. And that is why they were in where they found themselves to be. When we now look at the sources of inspiration for these women in STEM in their journey to leadership, it was observed that the inspiration, funny enough, some came from their fathers. Though they were girl child, but the inspiration came from fathers. It was also observed because in most instances, the mothers were not as educated as the fathers, or the mothers are like homemakers. So it's the father that is really incorporates organization that's seen exposure and is trying to guide the girl child, or his own child, to follow that scenario. A number that married mentioned that their husband is their supporter. Mind you, I didn't say in all cases. I'm just picking out what we found in the study. And personally, there are groups that mention the aspect of self-motivation and self-determination. Even that they found themselves in very toxic environments. They have made up their mind, they will be motivated, and they are determined. And that is the source of their inspiration. Professional-wise, others mention their PhD supervisor as someone that is charismatic enough to help them to be what they are in their leadership position. Others that even professors mentioned the senior colleagues, senior professors. And I must mention that there are people that specifically said their male colleague actually helped them in their inspiration. So when you look at the aspect of what exactly defines this success, we found that the aspect of mentor plays an important part. So I'm encouraging our women to adopt taking up mentorship. Mentors and the senior one to be mentors to the junior ones. The mention the aspect of expertise. Their expertise also is a contributing factor in what made them to be what they are. And the aspect of being a visionary, because the vision drives them, they follow their vision. And the aspect of being open to new ideas have helped a number of people. The defining success in leadership also has to do with the aspect of collaboration and embracing diversity. And this other one, if I will mention some of the things that have been said today, we can link it also to the aspect of collaboration and diversity. Then the strong desire to find scientific solution can also be a tool in hand when you want to be top tier in terms of STEM leadership. I can't move. Okay. Yeah. We also found that in terms of the characteristics of an effective leader in STEM, there are some things that each of those respondents keep mentioning, and I summarize those things here, like being mad for science, being willing to do self-management of themselves so they can have time to manage their research laboratory, being encouraged by their subordinates, and the aspect of humility, because some said they were able to climb some ladders which ordinarily they will not be able to if not for the aspect of humility. The aspect of resilience, we cannot overemphasize that from the summary of the results, the aspect of goal setting, the aspect of having the value or having principle, and the aspect of being current, and the aspect of being steadfast were the things they did mention. I cannot end the talk without emphasizing the challenges that they mentioned, and the common to these women are the challenges like low income, gender prejudice, the culture where they found themselves that, okay, as a woman, I'm like a second citizen to a man, or in anything, the man must be giving before coming to me. The challenge in terms of the religious belief also, challenges in love life. By love life, I mean the people when the mind is not settled in terms of the aspect of the love life, it rubs on their career, and the aspect of intimidation, conspiracy, envy, insubordinates, all these are the challenges. Also, to the time that they will need to handle the issue of pregnancy. I need not talk about that again because we had a presentation earlier that did handle that. The work has been published, and one of the publication is this one that talked about the power of shared success. How can sharing success and roles of others motivate African women in STEM? And it dwells extensively on what I've summarized. Another aspect of it came in this study that African women scientists COVID-related experience. It touches on where we are in STEM as women in relation to also our leadership. And the other one is on insight into the organizational culture and challenges faced by women STEM leaders in Africa. In conclusion, the study makes us to understand that leadership positions are challenging, yes, but one need to stay focused in it. And if once you are there to values of honesty, integrity, achieving career success, and earning the respect of colleagues and subordinates wouldn't be a problem. So I'm saying from the summary of the study is that leadership position is attainable, and I'm encouraging women. The study also highlights that the leadership roles, it highlights leadership role and styles of African women. It gave recommendation for organizational policies. We've listened to some aspect of policy today, and it also mentions the limitations and managerial implication. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor. It was a very enlightening and amazing talk that you gave, and that within time. So thank you so much, all the panelists, for this amazing session on empowerment of women in STEM. So we have very interesting questions from our attendees. So I would like to take a few questions since we have a lack of time. So I read this question, but anybody can answer and that quickly. Okay. So this question is from Abigail Najur. Her question is like this: most of the funding opportunities are advertised having very specific age limit. For example, below 35 years of age or maybe below 40 years of age. So her concern is, where is the place for women scientists who is 41 years of age and above? Because women have several traditional roles that they play in society, and this causes delay in reaching the academic pinnacle, and age becomes a disadvantage. So how to find out those opportunities and how
Shalini, sorry, we cannot hear you sometimes. Sorry.
So I hope you were able to hear the question. You are able to hear?
A little bit better now, yes.
So the question is, several funding agencies limit the award of the fellowship only up to 40 years or 45 years. So anybody would like to answer the question from the panelists?
Hi, Shalini. I can answer if that's okay, if no one else wants to answer before me.
Okay.
I think that's there's something I'm facing at the moment. Like, I'm turning at 38 and I'm still in my PhD, and there's something around the expectations of everyone having the same career path, everyone has the same linearity, but also everyone having children at the same time. So they expect you to have children after you finish your studies, after you have a stable position, after you make money, after you find someone to marry, after. So it's never a good time. So what happens is our real lives, not the planned life, not the expected ones, they happen differently. So what she's saying about considering calls and then granting schemes, they understand that women have different ages, and then when we do succeed, same as men do, at very, very privileged positions, we are older. And we have studies based on the Brazilian reality that we are on average between 3 and 5 years older than men with the same trajectory. And this is related to motherhood. So I agree with her about the need. Unfortunately, I have no answers to give you about grantees that consider older women. But I do understand, and I think it's a very, very important point, as well as to consider maybe women in menopause at the end of their careers, because as we are older than men, when we reach certain levels of academic ladder, we also need to understand that women have different reproductive health and different concerns than men do.
Yes, thank you so much, Camila, for this very insightful comment. Of course, the age limits imposed by these funding opportunities can be indeed a very, very big barrier for women scientists who may have been delayed in reaching their academic career. So I would like to share the experience in Indian National Young Academy. We try to write the white papers, we do the advocacy, we talk to the ministers, we send out the concern, and we try to make the change. So yes, it is in our hand if we try to make policy change. So policies or programs which are specifically designed to support women scientists. For example, we have government has given fellowships which are specially for those women who have taken a break in career, or they had more age, and then they consider, because there are some funding opportunities only specific together. So raising awareness and advocacy efforts brings this change. So that change we have seen in India. So that's what I would like to share. Thank you. Anybody else like to comment from the panelists? Okay. If not, then I would like to proceed with the second question.
Shalini,
yes.
Shalini, sorry, we have the feedback from the audience. It's difficult to hear us in a way.
Okay. So are we going ahead with the second question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So second question is also in line with this only, and this question is from Memo Sete Kusu. So in general, we focus on women with children, but when the woman is married, it is more difficult for her to achieve her scientific career, and she must give birth, take care of all the family. And don't you think that all the fellowships and grants companies should consider the married women with children? This is again another very, very interesting question. So anybody from the panelists would like to answer, and then I will put my comment. Dr. Clancy, Professor Fernanda, anybody would like to comment? All right.
Sorry.
Yes. Please,
Sorry.
please.
If no one else, it's just because it's very related to our work. I think it's important to understand that women may have children only, we call sole motherhood. So we need to understand that women are doing independent reproduction, is included in the assisted reproduction like treatments. So I think the status of being married or not is a very difficult dimension to be considered in the research, because being a mother is different than being married. Maybe being married in different aspects, you have like a support and a more privileged position than being single. And you also have the situation of absent fathers, or fathers that are not really like recognized in the birth certificate, or they're not supporting or doing their part in the parenthood setting. So I think that the status of married women is not precise enough, and then it is not an all-encompassing dimension to be analyzed when we're talking about women's rights and reproductive rights, and then everything that assists in the conciliation of academic careers and even careers in private sector and motherhood.
Yes, this is absolutely right. Because considering the challenges faced by the married women along with children in pursuing this scientific career is very important topic, and we must discuss. So generally, to either attend a conference or any academic activity, generally the funding, is provided along with the child. So there is another question to ask about: are there any funding agencies which can support childcare? So I would like to say that yes, there are several funding organizations which provide childcare or childcare co-funding. You will have to apply separately. I know a few agencies like Bill and Melinda, and there are few more agencies. This year, Global Young Academy also provided co-funding for traveling along with the children to attend the international conferences. So yes, there are opportunities. The government is changing, the policies are changing to consider the women who had children. Okay, so recognizing and supporting these married women with children in scientific career, which not only promotes the gender equality, but it will also enhance diversity. It will bring the innovation in the scientific community. So yes, this is a very, very important question. So thank you so much for asking this question. Yes. I think we are running out of time. If anybody has any comments, then they can ask, or then we can end this session.
Yes, I would perhaps, Shalini, for you and for all the other panelists, if you want to add a final remarks, then we are closing the sessions because we have run out of time. I would remind all the participants here that they can find the link, they can follow the next sessions on Facebook, or they are going to find the link on our website. A final thought from this really for these amazing sessions, and you as moderator, Shalini, you might then close the session.
Yes, thank you so much to all the panelists who spend their time on compiling this amazing thought. And I am sure that has, discussing those problems, discussing those challenges that young women scientists or women scientists in STEM are facing is very important, because when we discuss, then only we find the solutions. So thank you so much for all the panelists for discussing. We are coming from different parts of the world, and ultimately we are seeing that the problems are same. So ultimately we'll be able to find the solutions. And finally, I would like to thank the organizers, Amal and Nerina, for taking the initiative and bringing all of us under one roof for this discussion. And I'm sure there is a more solutions to this challenge. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Somebody would like to add something before we close?
I would just like to thank you once more, and I have answered some of the questions typing, because as people are having problem hearing us, I've tried to type at some answers there. Thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor Tonelli. It was a pleasure having you.
And can we have one group photo of the all panelists along with you, Nerina, if everyone can open their cameras?
Oh, Shalini, you are so great. You remember these things that then make us let me. We have a.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this very inspirational panel, and see you in the next panels, and see you soon again. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It was great. Yeah. See you soon. Bye-bye.